Welcome to Could Be Pretty Cool News, the podcast where we dive into the exciting world of creative entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Casey, and together we'll embark on a journey to explore this dynamic ecosystem from multiple angles, including academia, research and data, community building, and compelling personal narratives from creative entrepreneurs themselves. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered as we uncover the stories and strategies behind building successful creative ventures. It's time to discover why the world of creative entrepreneurship could be pretty cool. On July 20th, 2024, the usually raucous Atlanta United's passionate supporters section fell uncharacteristically silent during the match against Columbus Crew. This silence spoke volumes, and it was a protest against proposed ticket price increases for the upcoming season. The day before the protest, on July 19th, 2024, the Gulch, who are the official supporters collective of Atlanta United, posted a statement on Instagram that shed light on their concerns. They wrote in part, "We as the Gulch, on behalf of our independent supporter groups, our membership, and all supporters, are deeply troubled by the price increases going into next season that are inconsistent with team performance and stated front office goals." End quote. This statement highlights the growing tension between the club's financial decisions and the supporters' expectations, especially in light of recent team performance. Now, you may be wondering, why are we covering a sports-related protest on a podcast that typically focuses on creative entrepreneurship? Well, this story actually ties into our usual themes in a fascinating way. The supporters groups, like the Gulch, are essentially volunteer-run creative organizations that significantly impact the atmosphere of sporting events. These passionate fans use their creativity to design banners, compose chants, and orchestrate coordinated actions in the stands. Their efforts contribute immensely to the overall fan experience, creating an environment that's as much a part of the product as the game itself. In essence, these supporters are creative entrepreneurs who enhance the value of the sporting event without being on the payroll. To dive deeper into this issue, we're fortunate to have Thom Schelk with us today. Thom is a longtime member of Atlanta United's supporter section, and he'll be sharing his thoughts and firsthand experience of the event, as well as providing insight into the supporters' perspective on the proposed changes. Okay, fantastic. So the first question that I will ask, if you could introduce yourself and tell us how long you have been a part of the Atlanta United supporter section.
Sure. Well, my name is Thom Schelk. I'm a member of a couple of supporter groups, Footy Mob and All Stripes. I joined the supporter groups Footy Mob in 2018 and then All Stripes in 2021. And been seeing Atlanta United games since 2017. I'm not a founding member. I got season tickets in 2018. My prices are a little bit less impacted than some of the founders are. I wrote down some numbers if you want to talk more about that later. But yeah, I've been around supporter groups pretty much since the beginning, joining in 2018. And then I've been going pretty consistently with the exception of 2020 to matches in the supporter section.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit more about exactly what a supporter section does at Atlanta United matches? You mentioned
Mhm.
you're a member of couple different supporter sections. What is, for people who don't know, a supporter section at Atlanta United match?
Sure. So in Mercedes-Benz, the supporter section is actually really big, but most of the supporter section, the general admission area, is dead center in the middle of section 101. That's where you've got the big bass drums. There's a couple of capo stands where people with megaphones help coordinate people in performing chants for the stadium and for the players. The sections that are adjacent to 101, some of them are general admission, or at least the lower halves of them are. They're all considered supporter section. They have the same pricing and all of that. But the folks that are at each tailgate and spend a lot of time together outside of match day. We sit in 101. That's the community, and that's the majority of what happens on a match day comes from that small pocket.
Amazing. And so, with the supporter section, you mentioned there's drums, there's very enthusiastic people. What are some of the experiences that the supporter section brings to matches during the tailgate before they start and also while matches are taking place?
Sure. So every home game, at least the ones on weekends, the tailgate lot that we currently rent out is on available between 4 and 3 hours before the match. We'll get together, set up tents. There'll be music, DJs, lots of speakers, cookouts. Some groups have kids stuff like bounce houses. It can vary from match day to match day. The Pride tailgate, one of the better ones, they've had drag shows down in the tailgate lot. It's a little bit further away from the stadium than it used to be in the Gulch. What they call it Centennial Yards now, I believe. When we first started, that's where everyone would meet up, and it was a big melting pot of just all these different supporters getting together, and people come there, and we would drink, celebrate, get hyped up, go into the match day. We have a march around maybe an hour and 15 minutes or so before the game will start into the stadium. They generally show that up on the Halo board as it's happening. And there's a smoke ring. That's where people have either flares or smoke devices for it's mostly for show, but it helps build a little bit more of that atmosphere and get people into a state of mind to get in the stadium and continue singing and doing everything they can to help elevate the team and make it an intimidating environment for somebody to come in and try to defeat us.
And actually, it leads us right into our next question, which is yes, on July 20th, the silent protest that you are referring to occurred at Mercedes Benz Stadium during a match. And so I was wondering if you could share with us a little bit more about what that was about. What was the supporter section protesting?
Yeah. So prior to that match, the team announced that they were going to increase ticket prices again. It's something that they've done consistently, with the exception of 2020 and 21. Our tickets essentially rolled over because most people didn't go to games in 2020. I think there was one or maybe 3 games total that people attended. But in any case, they didn't raise prices that time. But the prices have gone up pretty significantly. And so some numbers there. If you were one of those founding members, had a supporter's ticket or maybe tickets on your side, because I believe they're the same price on either end of the football field, you've got a 75% increase from 2017 to 2025, which for reference, it's been a 25% inflation. So they're exceeding that. For me, who joined in 2018, the tickets went up quite a bit between 17 and 18. There's like the founder's price, and then there's the regular price. So sometimes when you're looking at the ticket prices table, you'll see 2 columns, and the prices for anyone who gets in after that founding member's price have gone up 35%, at least for the supporters section, since 2018 when they introduced those tiered prices. Those tickets are the highest ticket prices in MLS, with the exception of Miami, who, when they signed Lionel Messi, they jacked them up like 300%, which fair, because everyone who's got a ticket to a Messi game is able to sell them for, 4 or 5 times what the actual price is. But at least most games. When Messi leaves, will still probably be the highest. I doubt Miami's going to keep that going. And when you compare that to even the rest of the world, which Atlanta loves to do, you love to see how many people attend our matches, and we'll be like top 5 for the entire world when they open up the 300 level. We're more expensive than roughly half of the Premier League. If you look at what their season ticket prices are, we're more expensive than all of Bundesliga. So some of the biggest clubs in the world, like Dortmund or Bayern Munich, you can get into one of those games for cheaper than you can in an Atlanta United match. And I think that's kind of been a bit of the disconnect, is like when we were winning and things were positive, and even coming back from COVID and we weren't winning and things were a little bit weird, it was nice to have that release and that return to community. And since then, we've had not a lot of success on the field. We've been met with just more and more cost to get inside of the stadium. When it comes to people in the pits, the drummers, the capos, those guys pay for their ticket just like everyone else. Nobody gets a free pass because you've got a drum or a megaphone. So it does impact everybody. And so that's kind of where the frustration boiled over, is that, why are we paying more than everyone else in the country, most of the world, for a product that is simply not up to that price level, especially when you consider what you could be spending that money on elsewhere.
Yes, and if folks have been to an Atlanta United game, y'all are working. Like, there is no
Mhm.
sitting down, there is no take a little break throughout the entirety of this experience, and even as you mentioned, like, before the actual match starts, yes, you are there because you love it, you're volunteering your time, you're there in support of the team, but
Mhm.
this is a commitment that you all are making to this franchise that I would argue is elevating the franchise, because without that energy and that atmosphere, it's a big silent stadium.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you do a lot of the creative works approaches with your podcast. You look at any of the marketing about the club, it's always the supporters. It's that march up to the stadium. It's the people in the front of the supporters section with their scarves up high, or screaming, or making some silly gesture with their face or whatever. And it's kind of funny, like when you know those people personally, you see the images of them getting out and posted on social media, and all the emails and that sort of thing. It's cool, but it's also like, nobody agreed to be your essentially mascot. Doug Roberson's article on the AJC about the price increases had Ray and Zio. Ray's actually one of the board members of Footy Mob, holding up a "We Ready" scarf. And I don't know who chose that photo, but it was definitely not because supporters were ready or anything like that. It was just because they're such a good looking couple, and they're out there in probably a third of the pictures anyway. But it's something that we do because we love the club. You love the feeling you get when you're with your friends and you're able to see what you're doing reverberate around the stadium and down on the field.
And so I think it's interesting that you mentioned the franchise using the imagery and videos of the supporter section as part of the marketing push, presumably to sell more tickets and memberships,
Mhm.
etc. Have you all presented any grievances to the corporate offices, and have you all heard any feedback from them, if so?
Yes. So prior to the match on Saturday, the Gulch, the collective for all the different supporter groups, put out a statement on Instagram explaining why they were upset, and they didn't know that there was going to be a protest at that time. That was something that came about later, but they did list a couple of proposals for the club to consider. They asked for a 5-year freeze on ticket prices, which is actually not uncommon within MLS. I want to say roughly a third of the teams have that. Probably the biggest being LAFC, which their supporters section is massive, and they've had their tickets frozen at the same price since 2018. They got a 10-year freeze when they started. So we asked for a 5-year freeze. And in my view, that was an easy win for the club because it would be a show of good faith. The second was an additional exchange window in the middle of the season. So one of the things that the club did to help alleviate the pain of the price increases is having a ticket buyback window where you can sell back your tickets to the club prior to the season. So when they announced it, they said it would be a window within the month of January. So you'd have to know your schedule for the entire year by January in order to sell back tickets. So the ask there was allow us to sell back tickets later in the season, because who could possibly know what they're going to be doing, 8 months from January, to the degree that you would want to be able to take advantage of that benefit. The next one, which I'm kind of indifferent about, but it wasn't my statement, and I would be happy if they did do it, is a one-time option for founding members who have left their membership to have the ability to buy back in at their founding member price. So perhaps letting them back in, acknowledging like, hey, you were a founding member. Let's see about trying to get you back in, and as a token of our gratitude, you can use your founding member price, even though you did drop it for some period of time. The last one on their statement was an additional ticket payment plan for season tickets. The people that are agreeing to renew their tickets have no idea what team they're going to be seeing in 2025. And, it could be the same team we're seeing this year, which admittedly could be better.
So, in essence, the demands, if you will, of the supporter section, it sounds like are essentially, can you make it easier for us to be able to come and support you? Am
Mm-hmm.
I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, and I would clarify that, like, even though the Gulch is a collective for the supporters groups, they never specified this should only apply to people in the general admission supporters section. They wanted everybody. So when they used the word supporters, because they didn't specify like registered supporters or general admission ticket supporter section tickets, they were fine with it being the club tickets with everybody. I'm sure there are mixed feelings about that as well, but ultimately everyone is impacted by their price hikes and the approach that they're taking to their ticket holders. And I know Garth Lagerwey, the president and CEO of Atlanta United, has been on the radio saying he expects 10% of the existing members to leave. But it's always with this pretense of like, well, there's a wait list and, you will be replaced by other people who want to come in. Like, you're going to have to get back on the wait list to come back if you try to cancel, that sort of thing. It's almost a bit tongue in cheek, because I think anyone who's paid any attention to what the club's ticketing membership is like is aware that there really isn't a wait list. And generally speaking, at least for my area, and I think this is pretty universal, like, you see the stadium, it's looking a lot more like the Falcons out there. Not the Falcons, but we all know that their seats are never full too.
I just have two more questions for you.
Mhm.
Have you heard of any continued protest at all until any of these grievances are addressed?
I doubt it. I know the reason they went all in with the 90 minutes is because that was the last regular season game before the ticket prices actually kick in. So we do have a couple of home games with the League's Cup matches, and I'm sure they'll be weird for their own reasons, but I don't think it'll be because of a lack of drums and chanting. I know that they're expecting to be there and participating, but I think it's going to look a lot, especially the second game. But yeah, so I don't think there's going to be any more protests like that. But I do think they run the risk of it being just a little bit strange, a little bit fewer drums. Instead of there being four big ones, maybe it gets down to two or something, because it's harder for folks to get in or that sort of thing. You did ask a question earlier about if I'd heard back from the club if they were going to answer anything. I know personally, I emailed that fans account and asked, like, hey, the Gulch put out this really good statement and asked a couple of requests of you guys. Are you going to acknowledge it? Like, even if it's no, it would be better to just say no than to just ignore it, because it's like you didn't even care enough to engage the conversation. They did tell me that they're in talks with the Gulch's leadership, because there's like a board of directors in the Gulch, and it's a bit disingenuous in that they're talking to them all the time anyway. I don't think it's going to lead to more protests, but just vibes in general will be a little lower.
Well, that actually leads me to my final question. You mentioned, vibes in general might be a little weird. And so for this podcast, we usually are focused on creators and artists who are trying to use whatever their creative skills, gifts, interests are to make money. But
Hmm.
for folks in the supporter section, the energy it takes to do all the cheers and the clapping and the drumming and that's something that you all are doing not for any particular monetary gain, I'm assuming. It's something that you're doing to enhance an experience for a community. And so I was wondering if you could speak to what you feel is the importance of having these sort of community cheer sessions, community chanting, community
Hmm.
singing. Why is that important for us universally?
Well, hopefully people enjoy it at the matches. It does get repetitive, and it on a really good Saturday night, you wake up with a very sore throat on Sunday, that sort of thing. But, for me personally, it is so much more about the community that you have outside of those 2 hours in the stadium. The away games, we have a couple different restaurants or bars that we meet up at, and it's the same group of people you're seeing all the time. You see them at the tailgates, you'll see them in the general admission supporters section. It's kind of like it's a family, and it definitely is disappointing when you see that group continue to shrink because of it's too expensive for them. They've got fixed incomes, and there's so many reasons why that's happening. It's the team isn't good, management isn't been great, people they're bringing in aren't quite doing what they hoped that they would. But ultimately, it's the way that the league is structured, where the games are either Wednesdays or Saturdays, usually at the same time. It's difficult for people with families to participate. It's it's a big commitment to give up almost a month of your year to 18 days. It's just shy of half of a month. So anyway, that's why it's important to me, is that I hate to see my group just continue to shrink, and not knowing what's going to happen if things continue in that trajectory.
Shifting gears, we'd like to welcome our next guest, Thomas Gray, an Atlanta-based gaming and entertainment entrepreneur who's taken the concept of game night to a whole new level. While we've just discussed how supporter groups use their creativity to enhance the fan experience at sporting events, Thomas applies a similar creative energy to the world of gaming and social gatherings. For him, games aren't just a pastime, they're serious business.
How y'all doing? Welcome, and thank you so much for having me for the case. I am Thomas. I'm Thomas Gray, the creative producer and owner of Adult Game Nights, where we provide a vibe. We provide those different custom games and gaming accessories through digital and physical in-person game nights and engagements and stuff like that. So I'm basically, the host of Adult Game Nights. So when we do have events and stuff like that, I'll be, hosting and bringing the vibe and stuff like that, as well as online through streaming and Adult Game Nights. One of my flagship custom products is the liquor store board game, which I'm sure I'll be able to show you guys. So it wasn't with games starting out, believe it or not. I've always been that creative entrepreneur, and I started out with photography, believe it or not. Just film and video and music, the whole 9 yards. But my main thing was I started out producing beats, making beats and stuff like that. And then after that, I kind of got my hands on my first camera. And that's when the photography, videography started and things like that. Fast forward, I got my degree in film and video. I produce and direct. So I've done shows I've had on Comcast for about 2 years. Television show I produced and directed called Mixtape TV. So I used to want to shoot music videos, stuff like that for different groups. Fast forward, just creatively, getting older and, with friends and stuff like that. It was right before, COVID hit, and I was seeing different games out, and we played different games. This was well before COVID. And I was like, well, I'm going to kind of put something together so we, just for entertainment purposes, things like that. So I come up with the board game, and right before COVID, when they want everybody to social distance, I need everybody to kind of get together, So, but the games and the creativity and all this stuff, I've always been into music and film and video, so I'm just taking all of those aspects of what I've been doing and putting it all into what I have now. And it's kind of like, with the games, it seems to have taken on its own, a life of its own sense, yeah. Well, going back a bit, I was DJing for a while, and when I was DJing, that kind of flows over to the game nights, but I retired from DJing. But I was DJing for a while. I would do different trivia, different stuff like that. Fast forward with that, I seen different people, of course, when within the gaming industry, and, people put different games out and people creatively come up with different things. I was like, you know what? I was seeing people doing the different, like drinking versions of Uno, but it's just variations of it and all of that. I was like, since I'm doing this trivia, kind of, doing different game nights, let me go ahead and kind of take into that realm and just kind of see how it goes. I do graphics. I deal with graphics, the media, and different things like that. So when it comes to that side of it, it all kind of fell together too. So with the games, I basically have a game night just to test them out. That's how I come up with my rules. I see what people try to do, what they try not to do, how they, being slick and different things like that. But it's all fun. And I take that and I go back in the lab and just come up with different games. Of course, we're adults. It's adult game night, so we want to have a good time. So we gonna add some drinks and different things like that to it. So that's how we popped out. And one of the first flagship is the liquor store board game. I started out with the Uno cards and played around with that, and I was like, you know what? I can do a board game. So it's kind of like how I came about for it. Overall, it's been a blessing. I will say that. It's definitely been a blessing. It is a journey. Just having to go through the process of, this is my first product. I've never had a physical product. I've always been into the service industry, whether it was DJing or doing, working in corporate America or even doing contract work and different things like that. Never had a product. And so, of course, when it came to that, it was just, as far as like being able to, okay, how do I test it? How do I, even get it started? You know what I'm saying? So even then from the design aspect of it, just the different things that I'm doing with the liquor store. So, but overall, it was just coming up with it, testing it, seeing that people actually like it. It's kind of like it was my own sort of focus group, just having a game night and having people play, see how they like, see things they didn't like, this, that, and the third, and go back in the lab, redo it. And I figured out the manufacturing side and getting the pieces. I want to, have my own custom pieces, different things like that. And so from there, I put it online, use social media. Hey, hopped on social media, sharing it and different things like that. So I'm actually sold out right now because of TikTok. Using social media, building a brand, and putting it on, of course, on TikTok, different platforms. And I'm actually sold out right now because of TikTok and just, posting and different things like that. So that was exciting. So from here, of course, being able to continue to rebrand and go back in so I can present something else to you guys when they do get back in stock and get them so people can get it. So people can go ahead and purchase it. My first actual time pitching in person live in front of, an audience was when I did Black Girls Benches. Shout out to how you doing? And the Atlanta Hawks. And they had a, pull up and pitch type of competition. I've never, even at this point now, I'm still, learning to, I'm coming up with my pitch deck, being a part of the Russell Center and different programs that they have there. I'm learning different aspects of having a product and being able to pitch to investors. So this was all, new to me. And even at the competition down there, I think it was like 300 plus. And I was able to come out with the first place prize, just pitching my product. I just, I was coming up with it standing in line. It was one of those types of things. So, but I was, I know my brand, I know my product and stuff like that. So I was, I'm going off my head. So, you know what I'm saying? So it was, and it worked out. It was, it was a blessing. It definitely was a blessing. That's one of those things where I see it's two sides of the fence with some people. It's either you're gonna hold on to it. And I'm blessed to say that I'm able to have something in my mind and actually hold it physically in my hand. And I look at that where, with some entrepreneurs, what we deal with is we can have these different ideas and just be like, okay, they have to pay this person to do this design. They have to pay this person to do this. They have to have someone else because they don't. And that's a blessing for me. So when it comes to thinking, on that side of it, I'm like, I like to see. I like to be able to see and touch and put my hands on it, let people experience it and different things like that. On the flip side of it as well, just thinking about, because with entrepreneurs and products, we have to think about our IP, our protection and stuff like that as well. So a lot of that stuff I have in place and been putting in place and still getting together. But moreover, I wanted people to, be able to experience it, and the fact that I can put it out there and have us have a good time and different things like that, and be able to adjust as I go along and learn as I go along. That's why I'm at. The Russell Center for Innovation is basically a catalyst for entrepreneurs and Black Black business owners. It's that community to be able to build your Black business, to come in and basically be vulnerable and let them know where you are, to be able to give you the different resources that they have available, Jay Bailey's doing such a great job down there with all of the resources that he's able to provide for the entrepreneurs. I'm excited. I'm a new stakeholder, you know what I'm saying? So I'm actually adult game nights and we're part of that. And basically I'm able to, that's why I've learned different things as far as the 3D printing and taking your business into the metaverse. It's just those different resources were available to us as far as classes, different grants and different funding options that they have, and to be able to give us that knowledge about that community, you know, and being around those different entrepreneurs that have the same mindset as you and the same ambition and stuff like that. Yeah, it's great. It's actually a great place. Yeah. So when it comes to the digital side of being able to actually play, there's a way we can play that board game inside the metaverse, taking it into the digital realm, and you know, with VR and AR and the way that that's going is phenomenal, because it's really changing the way that people view that social interaction, because it's a way that, in a sense, we can all be in the same space but in different parts of the world. And in that sense, guess what? We can play the liquor store board game and different variations of board games inside of the metaverse with your friends, with your family, wherever they are. And you still can have, you bring in that sense of, you're using that VR and that AR, the augmented reality, and you're actually playing a board game to the point where you are rolling the dice and you're moving the pieces. And at this point, with the advances in Meta and what they're doing with the VR, those pieces are 3D. So I can have your actual pieces are running around the board game. I have different things that's going to be. So a lot is coming with that, you know, and when it comes with with being able to take that into that VR space. So yes, I'm definitely working on that. It's definitely, you need that balance. You know, we do need that balance. And, you know, with the adults, even, you know, around my age and older, younger, we need that social interaction as well, you know, and to also be able to, you know, sit back, have a good time with friends. And also we can also have a few, you know, cool drinks while we're doing it at the same time, and different, you know, do other things with the board game. But it's definitely something that we need. We need those breaks. We need to be able to relax. And why not have a good time, laugh amongst your friends with those social, you know, within those social, you know, gatherings and stuff like that. With the board game, it involves people that's not even playing the game. So you have those people that may be in a social setting, but guess what? They're on their phone or in the corner, or, you know, and stuff like that. So it involves people that's not playing the game. It involves stuff like that to get people, you know, mixed and mingle, and it's a whole different vibe. With adult game nights, I want you all to, what's next up in the pipeline. Of course, we're getting the games back in stock for you guys here soon. Be ready to, we're gonna go, you know, we're looking at some network stuff. Be on the lookout for a game show. I'm gonna just put that out there. We're gonna go ahead and, you know, be able to, I'm a producing director. I'm working on this game show that's gonna come out. And it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be a nice little vibe for you guys out there in the streaming world and on different networks and stuff like that. So that's in the pipeline as of next. A lot of people enjoy the game nights, the different game nights that I was, you know, doing around the city. So they be on the lookout for those coming back up as well. It's adult game nights on everything. I know we'll probably do that a bit later, but if you all want to catch all that. But that's in the pipeline, the immediate pipeline. Just getting the board games back in stock, because you guys are waiting on them. So I want you all to be able to play and have a good time with them. I meet other entrepreneurs that do create games, and I love to network. I'm like, listen, this is an outlet not only for me, but for other entrepreneurs that have games. Like, I'm having these game nights and different experiences. Like, let's get y'all games to these game nights and let people play them. They can use these also as a way to get those different tests done to better their games and stuff like that. Eventually, I would love to work with people that have gaming ideas and stuff like that, and we can bring those games into placement and stuff like that, and I'll go through those proper channels. And that's what the Russell Center is also assisting us entrepreneurs, so I can better know that process to be able to help other entrepreneurs, because they have a lot of creatives out there that just, you know, they're not able to, you know, get it to that point and stuff like that. But that's some of the main things. Yeah. Everybody wants to definitely connect and all of that. It's adult game nights on everything. Adult game nights with an S on nights. That's on the Instagram, the Facebook, and all social media. And also the website, adultgamenights.com. That's up and everything. You guys will see stuff sold out, but that'll be changing soon. I do have a wait list, so you all can get on the wait list under my social media and under the links. And that way I can definitely get you all those games, those ones that, leave that email, be able to get them to you guys and everything like that. So let me see. Oh, on the flip side, different proceeds also go to, I'm starting a nonprofit. It's TBS, Teens Behind the Scenes. And basically what I do is I utilize all the skills that I do have as far as the film and video and different things like that. And I help these teens to be able to use that as a voice, whether they're dealing with teen pregnancy and bullying and different things like that, that's affecting our teens now because they need help. You know what I'm saying? And we got to help. So that's my nonprofit agency that I'm doing. And we utilize, I want to bring back that a lot of people don't remember the Teen Summit type of show that was on BET, where you had the different teens talking about different things that they were going through and stuff like that. So just different stuff like that. But that's on the flip side. That's coming up as well. I guess to answer the question of what's coming up next also. But other than that, yeah, that's what it is. Adult game nights on everything. And I do have all those links there. You all can see that as well.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Until next time, we encourage you to continue nurturing your process. Farewell, and may all of your creative endeavors flourish. Could Be Pretty Cool News is a Could Be Pretty Cool original production that was workshopped as a part of the 2023 Google News Initiative Pre-Launch Lab. This episode was edited by Trinity Jackson. Our executive producer and host is Casey Willis, and our production coordinator is Liz Moore. The original theme music was composed by Camille Stennis, and our cover art was designed by Aaliyah Johnson. Special thanks to our guests. To find out more about them, you can visit our newsletter at couldbeprettycoolnews.substack.com. Thank you for listening.